حي على الفلاح.
You have to give your wife her rights. You have to give your children their rights. You have to give your siblings their rights. You have to give yourself your rights. You have to balance all of these things. If you don't balance them, then you will end up doing dhulm, injustice, wrong to at least one of them. Either yourself, you'll be wronging yourself. You end up wronging your children. There are some people that are so obsessed with giving to their parents and giving to their parents and giving to their parents that they even take from the rights of their children. And sometimes there are parents who ask and ask and ask and ask, and they take more than their right. When they use the ayah of Quran and say, well, no matter how much you do for me is never enough, so give me everything. Give me everything. And they'll use the ayah on you. Ihsan to them comes from Allah. It's not defined by them. Please understand this delicate point. What you should do for your parents is not defined by them. It's defined by you and Allah. If they're asking you to sacrifice the well-being of the people in your care, if they're asking you, for example, some parents ask the husband to punish the wife, to not talk to her anymore. Some parents ask the husband to not allow some basic rights in the family. You can't do that. You can't allow that. When you married a woman, you took her in your care and you promised to be her wali. You promised to protect her. You took the place that her father used to have. Her father would protect her no matter what. And you signed a nikah. أَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. You took a heavy contract from them. And now they're under your care. So I don't care what your mom told you or what your dad told you. You can't do wrong by your wife. But the flip is also true. You can't listen to your spouse and do wrong by your parents. Let me tell you what that means, gentlemen, myself included. You're going to live a life in which somebody's going to be unhappy with you. Always. Congratulations to manhood. Welcome to the club. Somebody will be upset with you. Your father will tell you you're not a good enough son. Your mother will say you love your wife more than you love me. Your wife will say you don't really love me, you just love your parents, I'm nothing to you. Your children will say you're always with grandparents, with grandpa and grandma, you don't care about us. Your parents will say you care more about your kids and your family, you've forgotten about us, we're just trash to you. Everybody's gonna think that you don't do anything. You're useless. And let me tell you, the only time they might appreciate you is at your janazah. He was so good to us. He was really good. You find parents, when their children are alive, and when they die, he was such a good son. He was perfect. He used to take so much care of me. As men, let me tell you something. Don't expect to live a life of appreciation. Just don't. Grow a thick skin. But then again, you're not angels. You're human beings. And when you are being pulled in every direction, and everybody is dissatisfied with you, and everybody's unhappy with you, then eventually something inside you will break. Eventually, you can't balance all of this. You just can't. You're going to have to learn to find the balance between two things. One, you get so angry and say, I can never make anyone happy anyway, so I stop trying. Forget everyone. The other extreme, you keep trying to make everyone happy, and the only one miserable left is who? Yourself. You're miserable. And when you're miserable, you can't be good to anybody else. You're no longer going to be able to be a good father, a good husband, a good son. You can't do those things if you've lost yourself. You cannot. There are some times in our relationships that we are the abuser. The men are the abuser. We're the ones that are not giving the rights. And sometimes we are in relationships where the people that need from us, the people that depend on us, become abusive. They become abusive towards us. You have to draw that line of what your rights are. You have to be able to demand your rights. And at the same time, you have to make sure you're not an oppressor. We live in a society where it's almost assumed that if something goes wrong, it must be because men are messed up. Men are not always messed up. There are plenty of men messed up in the Quran. There are plenty of women messed up in the Quran. Human beings are messed up. Human beings have greed. Human beings want more. They're never satisfied. And you're in the middle of just relationships, each of whom want from you all the time. You're going to have to learn to draw the line, and you have to be able to go to sleep at night saying, I did justice. I didn't shortchange my wife. I didn't shortchange my children. I didn't take the rights away from my work. I didn't take the rights away from my parents. And with your parents, you have to practically, not idealistically, practically be able to say, I did the best I could. I did the best I could. I'm being realistic, not idealistic. Quran emphasizes the rights of parents, absolutely. Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves the home, yes or no? He leaves the home. He could just stay there and keep getting beat up. But he leaves the home. There are Sahaba who are put in impossible situations, like Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. His mother says, I'm going to starve myself to death because you became Muslim. Like, I hate Islam. You converted. I can't take it. I'm going to starve myself. And she was a single mom. She raised him. And he's dying watching his mother not eat a morsel. But he can't leave Islam. He won't leave Islam. This is the kind of, sometimes the emotional torture and the psychological torture is far worse than any physical torture. And sometimes the people that torture us the worst are the people that are the closest to us, in ways that are not physical. You know, a physical abuse is easy to identify. Emotional, psychological abuse is hard to identify. My talk with you tonight is about two things. One, do a good, deep inspection of yourself. Are you a criminal? Are you doing abuse? And number two, equally important, are you the one being abused? Because if you're the one being abused, a lot depends on you. And if you're the one being abused, you're going to break. And when you break, you're not going to be able to do what you're supposed to do. You're not going to be able to maintain. Don't worry about making people happy. You can't. رِضَى النَّاسِ غَايَةٌ لَا تُدْرَكْ. Making people happy is a canyon. There's no bottom to it. You have to be able to make Allah happy. You have to be able to tell yourself in all consciousness that you did not. You can stand in front of Allah if you die right now. You can stand in front of Allah and say, Ya Allah, I did not take her rights, his rights, their rights. I didn't do wrong by them. I did right by them. I know they don't feel that way, but you know and I know what I did. That's ihsan. And maybe you're not good enough for your wife. She talks down to you all the time. She makes you feel like garbage all the time. Maybe your children make you feel bad. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But know one thing. You have to do right by Allah. That's it. You have to be able to say that I did my part. You know? And I stood by justice. This is, you know, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And once you can maintain that insight, and that's enough pressure on itself, then Allah did not leave you and me at that. وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُوبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. Oh my goodness. You know, so there's the close relatives on top of that. So on top of the immediate relationships, there's the close relatives you have to keep track of. Then he says you have to take care of your neighbor, who's got good relations with you, close friends. Dhil Qurba, some ulama included friends in them. Take care of your friends, especially the ones who live in your neighborhood. Check on them, you know, keep tabs on them, find out if they need anything. You know, the more you take care of other people, the more Allah takes care of you. So it's a selfish thing actually. Taking care of people, Allah will solve a lot of your problems. When you go out of your way and check on people and, you know, show courtesy to them, show mercy to them. And then he says, you know, even when you're traveling and there's, you know, وَالْجَارِ بِالْجَنْبِ, there's somebody sitting next to you on a train, on a plane. There's somebody next to you on a bus. You're sharing a cab with somebody. You're sitting next to somebody in like a lobby at a doctor's office or an airport. Even show ihsan to them. Be good to them. Show them some goodness. They have courtesy too. They deserve something too. Literally, the ayah of ihsan is so profound that when you're driving on the highway, the driver next to you in the car next to you is actually a jar to you, is a neighbor to you, by your side. So you not indicating and abruptly changing lanes is you violating this ayah. You didn't do ihsan to him. You cut him off. You literally, like some guy's about to park and you like, you know, because you want to catch Jumu'ah or something. This is you violating ihsan to your neighbor. This is ihsan. Ihsan means do a favor. Be good, show goodness. So that goodness, it starts with your family and then extends outward. And that's the last thing I want to share with you about this ayah. Is that, first of all, there's the minimum relationship with Allah. Then it's your parents. Then it's close relatives. Then it's neighbors. What does it seem? It seems that the thing that is, the relationship that is the closest, most intimate to your heart is first. Then we go to human relationships, and the most close human relationship is what? Your own parents. Then closest relatives, which of course includes spouse, children, others. And then it moves outward. And why is that important? Because unfortunately you find the reverse sometimes. You find somebody who's very nice in the community. Really nice to people. Salam, how are you? Gives you a hug, checks on you. Really nice guy. Except when he closes the door behind him and he gets home. Then he's Fir'aun all of a sudden. You wouldn't even recognize him. You would not recognize him. What happened to this guy? The voice changes, the temperament changes. He becomes somebody else. Allah is basically telling us in this sequence, there's no point of you being a nice guy outside if you can't show that first to your own parents, to your own spouse, to your own children. If you can't do that first, you can't extend that goodness first, then everything outside is fake. That is of no value and of no consequence, right? So this I wanted to highlight because in a very realistic sense, I acknowledge that men have quite a few pressures on them. If you're going to be able to fulfill your responsibilities, then you have to make sure you are at least receiving some of your most basic fundamental rights. You have to receive your rights because that is a need of the human being. For example, if your children don't respect you, if you don't give you the minimum respect, just not even say salam to you, it'll eat away at you. It'll hurt you. And it'll affect you in ways you don't realize. It'll affect maybe the way you deal with other people. It'll affect you emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It'll have other effects. So fix those relationships, not just in fulfilling your obligations, which comes first, but also at the same time learn to demand your rights also. But not go out of your way in demanding your rights. You have certain rights and you're entitled to them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us a people of balance. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us a people that are able to fulfill their worship of Allah in a way that does justice by everybody around them, and especially when it comes to our parents, that we're able to do our very, very best. May Allah Azza wa Jal overlook our shortcomings and make us of those who, on the Day of Judgment, people are testifying in our favor and not against us. Barakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with friends and family. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on the box at the top. If you want to see other videos, click on the box at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.